Jenny. Welcome back to the Bookworms Buddy. It is time for my August wrap-up. This summer has gone so fast and it's been so busy, but I've been able to read quite a few books this month. So I ended up reading 10 books, and I thought that was fantastic for as busy as we've been, but you know, that's not any different. Summers are always busy for us. So anyway, let's get started on the books that I have read. So the first book I read in the month of August was Love's Curse. This book is by Darren Gallagher, and it was a zombie story, and I was like, whoa, yay, zombie story. And the author approached me and asked me if I wanted to read it, and I decided I would read it. It was okay. And what the story is you have Justin, who is with this group of people. Zombie apocalypse has happened, so now they're overrun with zombies, and somehow they still have phones, and he gets a call from this girl that he just pined over, and she just really didn't know he existed. So he's going to put himself and his family and friends in jeopardy and travel across the country to go save her. And I just think he was just made to look really dumb. And the plot of this, the whole zombie thing, I really like zombie stories. So, you know, that part of it was okay. I rated it 3 stars. It was probably generous for this book. But there were entertaining parts in the book. And yeah, so that's why I gave it a 3. The next book I read was All Good Deeds, also a review book. And this is by Stacy Green. This is a mystery book, and the girl's name in the story is Lucy, and she ended up, in the very beginning of the book, they talk about, you know, as a child, she ended up killing the man who was molesting her and her sister. I think it was her sister. And anyway, she got into the CPS because of that. She went from CPS into private investigation. A young girl is murdered, or she's found, and the story goes on. She works to find out who this person was, and the story goes on from there. I don't want to give anything away. I really enjoyed the mystery aspect of this book, and I really enjoyed the characters of this book, and I ended up rating this a 4 stars. The next one I read, physical book, was Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. This is probably not his best book ever written, but it was very entertaining, and I really enjoyed the story. You have this kid, and you know from the get-go, you know, who the person is, who Mr. Mercedes is. His name is Brady. And you have a washed-up cop. So you have these two fighting against each other in this book. He has a Mercedes. He takes somebody's Mercedes and runs over a bunch of people waiting at, like, a job fair. And the story goes on. I don't want to give anything away. There's a lot of up and down reviews for this. I gave it 4 stars because I really did enjoy it. And like I said, not his best book, but it was entertaining. So yeah, for the most part, I really enjoyed it. The next one that I read was Inkheart by Cornelia Funk. This is one of the series that I want to read for Series-a-thon that Shannon had started way back. And I just kept going on it, and this is a trilogy, so I'm glad I finally got to it. And this also covers another challenge that I'm doing for the year, which was our Blind Authors Challenge, and those are authors that you've not read before, and you read them. And this is Cornelia Funk, and I'd never read Cornelia Funk until I read this book, and I absolutely loved this story. It's such a great plot. You have this girl, Maggie, and her father can read characters from a book. And all kinds of things happen, and I don't want to give away a whole bunch of stuff because it would be really easy to, because the back of this book, the synopsis, to me was a spoiler because it doesn't happen in the you don't know about that in the beginning of the book. It's probably somewhere between here and halfway that you get a snippet of what happened. You don't live through it. He just is telling the story. And so I thought that was kind of spoilerish, and just because of where it falls at in the book. but it's so good. I mean, if you could imagine being able to read characters from a book. And I don't want to tell you anything else, even though it might not be a spoiler, but it might be a spoiler for somebody else. So that's where I'm cutting it off. I rated this a 4.5 stars. Absolutely amazing. I just watched the movie, actually, last night or yesterday sometime. And that was, of course, not as good as the book, but it was fun to see everything coming into life. So I read this as a buddy read with Rihanna. I'm not sure if she got to the book. I sent her a message and I didn't get one back, so I don't know. But another one of my friends, Mary, just is wrapping this book up because I told her how good it was, and we're going to read the next 2 books together. So yes, there's that one. The next one I read was What Lies Within by James Morris. This one I think I also rated a 4-star. It was also a really good read. Again, the author approached me to read this book for him, and I really enjoyed it. This girl gets a strange text message, and it says you're going to die. And of course, you know, she freaks out. It happens in the middle of school, and she starts to uncover things and discovers that she is not actually who she thinks she is, and the story goes on from there. And it was a really good read. I really enjoyed it. So yes. And the next one that I read for this month, need I say any more? Really? Dragonfly and Amber, book number 2 in the Outlander series. We're having a Outlander series read along, and I can link to that group in the box below so you guys can come check it out. I am loving this series so much. I love Jamie and Claire. I love the plot. I love the setting. It's just written beautifully. And I know a lot of people have a problem with this because they think that the series is boring. I don't see where the series is boring at all. There are slow parts. This one had a slower start to me. I'm not going to tell you why or what the setting is or any of that stuff because I don't want to give anything away since it is a book 2. But it soon picked up. It didn't take long. I mean, maybe the first 100 pages were a little slower, 150 pages maybe. But then it just really picked up, and I ended up really enjoying this book. Outlander got 5. This one got 4 just because of the slow start. But it's, you know, it's all a setup to the story and what's going to happen. And it just excites me so much to read these books. So yes, 4 stars for Dragonfly and Amber. If you want to read with us, click the link below to the group. And we have great discussions in there. The next book that I read was 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. I read this, kind of skimmed it rather, a couple years back. And I didn't really have a whole lot to think about it. It was just kind of, you know, it was online for free, so my husband and I both read it. But my husband read all 3 of the books at that time. And I just pretty much stopped at this book. But I decided to pick it up again and try it again and really focus on what I was reading and really have an open mind of what I was reading. And if you can have an open mind while you're reading it, then you can see so much more about the story. You can see so much more about the characters. I rated this 3 stars because, you know, it's not the best, apparently, of the 3. And I thought it was worthy of 3 stars. And I'm looking forward to reading the other 2 books. And now there's Grey, which is book number 4. But it's kind of like Christian's view of this book. So I don't know if I'm going to read it or not. Maybe. My husband read it. He enjoyed it. So I think you get really inside a Christian's head and see what makes him tick and why he is the way he is. You can get a glimpse of that in this book. So, you know, if you've not read it and you're interested, don't let other, you know, negative reviews put you off. Don't let the whole synopsis of the book put you off. Just read it with an open mind and understand, and you can see more. You can see more that it's a book about a relationship and, you know, what you're willing to give and what you're willing to give up for this relationship to work. So, yes, I rated it 3 stars. I'll be reading the other 2 books as well. I was supposed to read this as a buddy read with Susan, but she didn't get to. She's going to read it this month. The next book that I read was The Looney Experiment, and this is by Luke Reynolds. This is a very small book. I got this through Book Look Bloggers, and it's a book on bullying. school setting. This boy, of course, gets bullied, and of course there's this girl that he really likes, but she doesn't view him the same way. She is friendly to him and that kind of stuff. And then this new teacher comes to teach, and his life changes simply from the way the teacher teaches the classes. And it's really a charming read. I really enjoyed it. I gave this 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. I recommend this. It's a middle grade book, so yeah, it was really enjoyable. The next one I read was Sorry, I'm Not Sorry, which was an extra that went along with this book. If I got this book, then I got an ebook of Sorry, I'm Not Sorry, which is also a book on bullying, but this is more through the eyes of the bully. So I also found out it was book number 3 after I'd already gotten the book and read it, and I'm like, oh, wow, this explains a lot. This is book 3. So you don't get a whole lot of backstory in this. In Sorry, I'm Not Sorry, you start at the point where she has been a bully, and so anyway, this is just, you know, her life and what she goes through. So yes, I rated that one 3 stars. And the last book that I read for the month was To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I rated it 3 stars. I was going to go lower than that, but I figured, you know, there was enough good parts in this book to rate it 3 stars, but I had to ask myself why so many people marked this as a favorite book and marked this a 5-star read. There's a lot of racism in this book, and there's a lot of use of the N-word, which I didn't find that necessary. We all know that this is set in 1960, so we all know back in the 60s things were rough for African Americans. You know, and we knew they got called names, and I didn't find it necessary that it be used. And it was like almost every page that word was on there, and I'm just like, why do we have to say that? We get, you know, I'm guessing that she used it to get a point across about how bad it was. But there were some great parts. My favorite part in this book were the 2 kids in the book. If you don't know what the story's about, you have this man who is a lawyer, and he's picked pretty much to defend this black man who was accused of raping a 19-year-old girl. And here's just 2 kids who are growing up and trying to deal with what is going on. The characters were fantastic. Those 2 were my favorites. The boy was Jem, the girl was Jean Louise, and it's their trials. They're pretty much telling, Jean Louise is telling the story, and she's the younger one. So there were a lot of touching parts and a lot of great parts to the story, which is why it got a 3. I didn't find it particularly exciting. I didn't find it particularly memorable. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I'm glad that there's a lot of people out there that did really like it a lot, but this is not something that I would say is a favorite. I think it's a good classic, and I think people should experience it and judge for themselves, you know, form their own opinions. So yeah, I rated it 3 star. That's all I could really make myself give the book. I can see why kids didn't like it in school. Yeah. So that is my wrap up for August. I have written reviews on my blog, which will be in the box below, so you can go check out all these books and what I have wrote on those. If you've read any of these books, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you have to say. We'll talk about it. Thanks guys for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.